Welcome to Ladies Kickin Ass. I'm your host, Tanya Wilson, and I'm crazy passionate about encouraging women to tell their hard-earned stories, provide coaching and creative ideas to help you build the service business of your dreams. What's different about this podcast? Well, we are real, and that means most of us are trying to juggle all the things. Being an entrepreneur, mama, wife, sister, friend, doggy mama, and all those other titles that we love. This life is a dance, and we celebrate every twist, step, and dip along the way. This show chats about our wins, our losses, business, relationships, family, and how to get the hell out of our own way and believe in ourselves and our big ideas. The Ladies Kickin Ass Community is full of strong, generous women who support, mentor, and cheer for each other. So, come on, let's get inspired and learn something new today. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin Ass podcast. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Dr. Erin Ellis for our Ladies Kickin Ass podcast. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Me too, because I know that you have a wealth of knowledge that will help so many people. Everybody will get something out of this because if you are a woman, and even if you're one of those few men that listen to this too, some of them that I make listen to it, this is still going to be good for you because we're going to go over good topics that everybody seriously deals with. So I met Dr. Erin. I have actually went there to see her myself, and I can't thank you enough, even for the things that you have done to help me with things that I was just feeling so hopeless. Like, nothing is working. What is my problem? I feel fine, but something's not right. And I think that happens with a lot of women. Do you have a lot of women that come into your practice that are just like I was? It's like, I'm losing my mind. I don't know what else to do.
Oh yeah. I just had a patient a few months ago that said after 3 weeks of the treatment protocol that she was on, saying that I was pretty much her last hope. And if I couldn't help her, she was going to go see a psychiatrist because she legit thought she was going crazy and losing her mind because she didn't feel well and nobody was able to help her. And it's just so unfortunate that I know that, you're not the only one. She's not the only one. And I tell women that when I meet them, I'm like, you're not alone. Like, it's just unfortunate that so many women are quote unquote suffering when they don't have to, because there's a reason why they feel the way they feel and they should get the answers they deserve.
Absolutely. Why do you think that it is, and I'm definitely fall in this category, that women wait till they're at the point like that of like, I'm literally going crazy and like my next last resort is to go see a psychiatrist if this doesn't work? Why do you think they wait so long to try to figure out what is wrong?
I don't know if they really wait on purpose. I think most women are moms and they're so used to putting everyone before them. And then they just keep putting off their health and their health and their health, not really by choice, but it's just, they're so busy taking care of everyone else that they're their last resort. And so I think things just get, pushed down, just keep being suppressed until it actually really is like, I can't take this anymore. Or maybe the relationships, starting to get rocky, or they're really feeling the guilt and the remorse from missing out on their kids' events or things like that, that they're like, I need to do something about this. So I don't know if it's really done on purpose. But I do see so many women they just wait. And, my biggest message is like, don't wait. We can get to, you can get an answer, or they've been the opposite route like you, or plenty of patients where they've gone to see a doctor and they've just been told that nothing's really wrong with them, or they may need to sleep more, or here's an antidepressant. And they're like, but I'm not depressed. So they've just gotten like poor healthcare. And then they also too might just live with it. And they're like, well, I guess this is the way I'm going to feel because that's what they're telling me. There's nothing wrong with me. So
Excellent. All good things. Cause I knew if you talked about that, so that would resonate with somebody.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a little bit of everything, I think, as to why that kind of happens with us.
Yep.
It can, for me personally, I think that I was just thinking, oh, this is just like a wave and a phase and things like that, and I didn't want to go back somewhere where somebody was going to say to me, here, take this pill.
Mm-hmm.
unless I know what this is actually doing to my body. I don't want a masker pill. If I legit need something to help me, great. But I think that that's just become like the norm, going to traditional medicine.
Yep.
That is something that I loved about you too. So explain to our audience kind of how your approach is when you get a patient of someone like me that comes in at their last whim, or like is just truly struggling with something.
Mm-hmm.
And because you approach it in such a loving and different way than a traditional doctor sense does.
Yeah. So in the naturopathic community and in our education is really getting to the root cause of what is going on. So to do that, I need to look at the body as a whole. And it's a really, really comprehensive look at everything going on with your body. So our initial consultation is about 60 minutes, like face to face with me, discussing your entire health history, going through every single organ system, so that I can better understand your health. And then the lab work that's done is it's pretty comprehensive. So most women, not most, but some women come to me and they say, oh, I've had lab work done by a previous doctor and they said everything was normal. And so they'll bring that, and it's very, very vague. It doesn't really tell me a whole lot. It's just kind of like one layer, like very basic, like, oh, okay, pretty much like you're not dying, so you're okay. But I am very, very comprehensive. My lab work is tons of tubes of blood. Like most women, when they get their blood drawn, they're like, oh my gosh, I've never had this much blood drawn. But I have to draw a lot of blood to really figure out what's going on with you as a whole. So very nosy. I like to say that I'm like your health detective, because I can really get to the bottom of what's going on with you. But to do that, I have to see what's going on inside, and that usually is taking a lot of blood.
Yeah.
But not to scare you. Like it's not that much blood. It's just
It's
more
not
than the
that bad.
one or two tubes that you usually get with your regular PCP.
Sure. And then the comprehension of how comprehensive that test is. I'm like fumbling over my words. And you sitting down and explaining what all of that stuff is. My husband and I have this debate all of the time when he goes to his like primary care provider for things. I'd be like,
Yeah.
did they do this test? Did they do this test? Oh, they just took some blood. Okay, what did they tell you? That I'm not dying. Exactly what you
Yeah.
just said.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what in the hell is the point of paying someone? I mean, his doctor bill is more expensive than me coming to see you. And they don't explain anything to them. So I
Mm-mm.
think a lot of times too, women, men, anybody that goes to the doctor, we kind of feel like we have no idea what to ask.
True.
Um, or like, so I'm getting a blood draw done. What do I ask? Or what do I have tested? Like, what are some of those things that are the most important, that questions that somebody should be asking their doctor when it is centered around, like the smart question? Like, what do I need to know, and what stuff are they just
Mhm.
kind of not talking about?
Yeah, well, I think it's important that to note that we actually kind of really have to be your own health advocate nowadays, and you really have to ask for the things that you want. So if you do your research or listen to podcasts like this, you need to ask for comprehensive labs, and more than just a CBC, which is your basic blood count panel with your white and red blood cells, and then maybe your metabolic panel, which is like kidney, liver, electrolyte function. Yes, that is helpful, but not really. Like that's very, very basic. So we need to look at your thyroid, and that's a comprehensive thyroid panel. Most medical doctors are only running one lab for the thyroid, and that's your TSH. If you get something beyond that, you're very, very lucky. But the TSH is not a good indicator of your thyroid health. So making sure there's actually 9 different thyroid labs to make up the whole thyroid panel, and most people are only getting one, and that really tells me nothing about your thyroid. So comprehensive thyroid panel, your sex hormones, so your reproductive hormones. But for women that are menstruating, like it's really irrelevant to get done unless they're timed with your cycle, because as the female body, our hormones are all over the place throughout the menstrual cycle. So the best
Mhm.
representation of those reproductive hormones is on the last half of your menstrual cycle. So trying to get them timed on day 19, 20, 21 of your cycle would be like the best look at your hormones. I would also ask for like your adrenal function, like cortisol test or inflammation, blood sugar, like all of these things. Like, again, it's a comprehensive look at your hormones.
Sure. And I think some of those things, like I know for me when I came to see you, I'm very candid with my audience and things. I had issues with all of those things. And those weren't even things that crossed my radar, you know? It's like those generic things that you hear of that people talk about all the time. It's not, you know, that you're thinking, um, what is this that is making me like so nervous and so all of this stuff, but you don't even think about like adrenal stuff. Honestly, before I came to see you, I didn't even know what any of that stuff meant. Anyways, so it is very interesting, and I love that you tell people to become their own advocate in that, because I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times when people go to the doctors, they're like, I'm going to go to the doctors and they're going to tell me what I need to do. But you need to do a little bit, take some of that responsibility, you know, in for yourself too, and be able to do that. So thank you for sharing that stuff. There's so much more to your story though than just what you're doing right now. I'm so thankful for that too. But why don't you give us a little overview as to like how you got into medicine and why you wanted to do this career path?
Yeah, well, it's kind of fitting that we're recording this today, and it's not going to air today, obviously, but today is my 12-year diagnosis anniversary of having cancer. And so I was diagnosed on February 4th of 2010 with a rare form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was 31 years old at the time, and the type of cancer I had was found in older men. So why it was in me and a young female, no clue, but I really didn't have any other choice but to beat it. And I think my positive outlook and really that only option of, you know, wasn't any other choice but to move on with this, really got me through the diagnosis with flying colors. I had 6 rounds of chemo. Like I said, I was diagnosed in February, and then I was deemed cancer-free in July of that same year. So I kicked its butt, or kicked ass, which is why this podcast title is like so appropriate for me and my journey. But throughout that journey and having, you know, being told you had cancer at such a young age was really, really eye-opening. And things that I thought I was doing, like I thought I lived a healthy lifestyle. It wasn't really the healthiest lifestyle, but I also didn't know. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate for health, because I taught myself so many things that I didn't know, like making, you know, drinking water. I hated drinking water. I thought water was boring. I'm like, I don't see the point of drinking water. Eating vegetables. I was living by myself, you know, I was pretty much single for most of my life. And I would never buy vegetables because they would always go bad, or you would buy too much and then they would go to waste. So I'm like, well, I'm just not going to eat vegetables. Even though I like vegetables, I just didn't eat them. Like I drank soda and all this sugar and all of these things. Like I just didn't really know. I just like, oh, okay, well, that's just something that's available. I'm going to have it. But I didn't really understand the effects that it was having on my health. And even with that diagnosis, like most of those things I like pulled out. Like I didn't drink soda. I didn't have sugar because sugar can feed cancer, you know, dairy, all of these things I cut out. But it was, someone had sent me a book, and it's called Crazy Sexy Cancer Tips by Chris Carr. And Chris Carr is very well known in the cancer, I guess, world, because she has another rare form of cancer that's pretty much lays dormant inside of her. So it's not something that she can actually eradicate, but she's a huge advocate for cancer. And so someone sent me this book, and I literally read it from cover to cover in one setting because I was just so engrossed with it. And that's where I learned about the sugar and the animal products and dairy and all of these things that I was like, oh crap, like I didn't know any better. And then I said, you know, there's got to be a better way for health. And it's just interesting how life really plays out for you. And I'm a firm believer that this diagnosis happened for me because all of these things after beating it, like came into my life. So I met a naturopathic doctor and had no clue still to that day, like what naturopathic medicine was. And when she told me what she did, I was like, what? I'm like, there's doctors that don't really prescribe, you know, pill for your ill, or, you know, oh, here, take this medication. Like they actually really want to cure you, or, you know, get to the root cause of why you feel the way you feel and can treat it like more naturally. Like I had no idea. And then like she tells me there's a school in Tempe, which is about 10 minutes from where I lived at the time. And I said, this is like too good to be true. Like this is something I definitely have to pursue. And I'm like, who would have thunk in a million years I would have gone back to school? Everyone in my family thought I was nuts, but I went and I met with the advisors, and they told me I really only needed 2 classes to get in, because prior, like when I graduated from high school, I went to University of Arizona pre-med. So I've always wanted to do something medical, but back then it was 90, when I graduated in high school, 96. So 97, I was, so over school by that time. And I didn't want to be in school for another 20 years, it felt like. So I gave up on those dreams and just got a business degree and all of that. So that whole medical thing was always in the back of my brain. And come to find out, most of my classes had transferred. I'm like, see, again, like another sign. I'm like, I'm supposed to do this. And sure enough, in 2013, like I started medical school and I graduated in 2017, and I'll have my 5-year anniversary of graduation this summer. And here I am today, like now just telling people that they can be their best versions and life's too short to feel suboptimal. But more importantly, like if you know what's going on inside of you, you can prevent a lot of disease processes. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of how I got here.
That is incredible. Isn't it funny how things just align and they just line up so perfectly for things like that?
Yeah.
When people, whenever people talk about and challenge like that you're called to do something, because I believe that in my core, I believe that, and people are like, oh no, they were just given this chance or this chance, there's always going to be the more naysayers than anything like that.
Yeah.
And you hear stories like that. That is the whole purpose of this podcast, is to hear the women's stories that got into how they got into their industry and what fell together for them to happen. And I am yet to find one story that doesn't have something like that, where it's just like, too good to be true. This is too good to be true,
Right. Yeah.
And when you listen to that calling on your heart, what an impact you can make, because we know what you've been able to do here. And tell us a little bit about the courses and programs that you offer, and what your clinic's name is, and what it is that you focus on with healthcare.
Yeah. So when I graduated in 2017, I first started in a naturopathic urgent care, and I worked there for 2.5 years and never thought in a million years that I would open my own practice. But then I saw that there was a need for naturopathic medicine in the Far East Valley of Gilbert and Mesa, Queen Creek, Santan. Like out here, there wasn't very, very many naturopaths. And so I decided to open my practice in 2020 in January, right before the pandemic hit, not knowing that all of that was going to happen. But honestly, that's been a blessing. And it took me up until probably the end of, last year sometime, for me to really find the name that was going to sit. Like, it was just, okay, it came to me, and I branded my practice Hope Natural Health. And hope was a special word for me when I was going through my cancer journey, because I had the hope that I was going to be okay. And now I give patients hope that their symptoms are real and that they're going to be okay too. So it's kind of full circle around how I came to Hope Natural Health. But yeah, in the office where I'm in the state of Arizona, I'm licensed as a primary care physician. So I focus mainly on women and women's health with their hormones, helping fix crappy periods, because so many women are struggling with terrible menstrual cycles. And if you are one of them, this is not normal. And you do not have to take birth control to fix it. There's other remedies. And I'm sure you didn't know that, because most women don't. They're like, okay, well, I guess the pill is my only option. So I really help with the female body and the female hormone system. I can do well women's exams. And then we have a whole kind of other side of our practice as far as IV therapy. So we just started going mobile for our IVs. And we're treating a lot of patients who have been sick with, the various viruses and things going around right now, or just even, immune boosting, post viruses or post flying or post whatever, energizing IVs, et cetera, or even hangover IVs if you overindulge. So that's a whole nother side of the practice that my nurse helps with. But in the primary care realm, like I do have a Master Your Cycle, Embrace Your Hormones course, which really teaches you about your cycle. That's one of the things that I didn't know about. My mom, it was kind of like an elephant in the room, I like to compare it to, because when I was of menstruating years, like my mom would just told me like, oh, okay, well, this thing's going to happen and you're going to need like a little product, and, it's going to happen once a month. And that was pretty much it. Like, they don't teach you anything about your cycle, like ever. It's kind of,
they had like those little menstruation classes. Remember those that they used to have? We're about the same age. So like,
I don't even remember that.
You don't remember that? Oh my
No.
gosh, I was so thankful for that. My mom didn't talk to me about anything. The only reason that I knew anything about it was from those little, I think they called them like maturation programs or something weird like that,
Yeah, I don't
just
even.
something to make you feel uncomfortable to go into.
It's so, yeah. And it was, it's embarrassing. Like women just didn't really talk about it, but your period is like your fifth vital sign and it can tell you a lot about your health. And so this course teaches you about your cycle and really how you can use your hormones to work for you. Um, like right now I'm hitting almost like menstruation, like right before my menstrual cycle. So this is like probably the worst time of my cycle to do a podcast because I'm not like my hormones aren't at their best. Like the best time to really put yourself out there is right before ovulation because testosterone and estrogen are at their peak. So I teach women, about their menstrual cycle in this course, and then also like where your symptoms are abnormal, and then really what the cause is, how you can get off birth control if you're on birth control, and then other ways to prevent pregnancy. Because I've never wanted kids. I don't have any kids. So there's so many women out there that are, fertility specialists and trying to help women get pregnant. But I'm more of an advocate for like, here's how not to get pregnant. And if you understand your menstrual cycle, there's really only maybe 5 to 8 days out of the month that you actually can get pregnant, but you have to understand your own body, which is very, very good for us to know that. And then if you just abstain or use protection during those days, you're not going to get pregnant. So that's my big course that I have available for really anyone that wants it.
That's awesome. Because that is something that you're just told like from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of like women well into like I hear stories like I know somebody personally that's like, well, my husband had a vasectomy and now ta-da, I have a youngest 15-year-old and now I have a baby on the way. And I'm
Oh
like,
gosh.
there's so
I
many
mean, there
things.
are weirder things that have happened,
So
but
crazy.
yeah.
It's so crazy, but it's stuff that you don't know, that's
Mm-mm.
where like I bring that story up. I'm so happy for them and I'm excited for them to have this baby. It's going to be quite an adventure for them. But it's so interesting because you just don't know these things, because it was so
Right.
funny because the thing that came back was like, I didn't know you were supposed to get this checked out after so many years, So it's been like, it's super funny that we laugh at it and we say that it's funny, but for some people that might be like a terrible life
Oh
blow,
yeah. Yep.
so really understanding things like that, and like you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about with knowing how your body works with stuff. I know you do a lot of things too, as far as really empowering women throughout our community.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Erin lives in the same community that I live in here in Gilbert, Arizona. So
Mm-hmm.
um, talk to us a little bit about what you like to get involved in with the community,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're doing throughout your practice to be able to help promote wellness in women.
Yeah. So I am part of the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce. So I'm pretty active in there and attending, events that they have on, like the Women's Empowered event is one of the big, things, pseudo, I guess, groups inside of the chamber. But I also have a podcast too. So I do the podcast not for me, I do it for everyone else and just more educating. And that's one of the big things about my field is that I love to teach. And I can do this through the podcast, just, sharing topics and, really about the site, kind of like what we talk about on these podcasts. I share various things on my podcast, and then very active on social media, again, like just full of education and just trying to promote like health and really get women and really men too to understand that they don't have to feel crappy. And there's, like we were saying in the beginning, there's so many women that I don't think they know what it's like to feel good because they felt crappy for so long and they just accept that that's normal for them, and it doesn't have to be that way. So that's what I try and advocate for really wherever I'm at. Just trying to teach people that these things aren't normal. And with my cancer diagnosis, you shouldn't have to be scared of these things if you know that you're healthy, and you won't know that you're healthy unless you get a comprehensive look at your insides. And to do that, you've got to get good blood work done and get evaluated. So that's pretty much what I try and preach on a daily basis, and really put myself out there so that I can educate, as long as I can help one person every single day, I've done my job.
Yes. And it is so incredibly helpful. If you have not listened to her podcast, it's called Hope Natural Health. You can get
Yep.
it anywhere. I listen to it all the time. I love it. Just the one that like, I love the little 5 minute, I'm a
Hmm.
big like commuter person,
Yeah.
like listening to stuff in my car. So like when I drop my kids off to work, I have about 10 minutes. So I love it. Sometimes I have to take in podcasts and little snippets, but I love your little ones. Like I just listened to the one about progesterone and
Yep.
progestin. Not,
Yeah.
I mean, we've even had conversations and still like, I was like, oh my God, like
Uh-huh.
so much of that is so interesting. Cause when you're talking about what each one does differently to your
Hmm.
body, I'm like,
Yeah. The one
things
that just
start
came
to make a
out
lot of
this week.
sense.
Don't miss the one that came out this week. I've already had like a few people message me about it. I had a guest on. It's really good. It's like
Who
life
was your
after
guest?
40.
Oh, it's the big milestone year for me
Yeah.
this year. I'll have to listen to
It's a
this.
good one. It's just full. She's another cancer survivor too. So,
Mhm.
and she just had a whole round of crap happen to her last year, and just her resiliency and her attitude is just amazing. She's a really, really wonderful woman. So don't miss that one.
Awesome. That's excellent. And that's you can learn from everybody from every age
Oh
at
yeah.
so many things. Like even going into some of the podcasts, and I'm sure you do this on your own too. You have an idea for how things are going to go, and then by the end of it, you're like, that was so much better than what
Oh
I
yeah, for
even
sure.
dreamed it could.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see where those conversations go. So since a lot of the women that listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs, and
Hmm.
obviously you are because you have started your own practice,
Yep.
what are some of the hardest things that you've had to deal with in doing that? Like I know that you wanted your ultimate mission is like doing the medicine part of stuff,
Hmm.
but you also saw a need somewhere, so you created a space where you could do what you like to do,
Hmm.
but you're also an entrepreneur with
Hmm.
things. So tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh gosh. Well, it's an ever evolving entrepreneurial journey. We take like business classes in school, but honestly, it was nothing. So I have learned like the best thing that I did for myself was invest in myself. And by doing that, I have had multiple mentors to help me get to where I'm at today. And I don't think I would have scaled my business to where it's at without these mentors. Like I can't, we're not meant to do life or business alone. And if you think that you can figure it out on your own, I'm sorry to tell you, but you can't. So also too, like I have a degree in medicine. I don't have a degree in business. I don't really know what I'm doing. And so for a while there, I was just winging it and I wasn't doing things right. And it's important to get the people in your life that can help you with this. Like my best hire was a bookkeeper. Highly recommend if you don't have
Hmm.
a bookkeeper, get one. It has saved me so much like headache. And again, like that's
Hi.
not my specialty. And that's what she does.
Hmm.
She helps me so that I can focus on my business. And that's my biggest piece of advice is that like you need to focus on your zone of genius. Like my zone of genius is medicine. And then everything else, it's like, okay, I'm going to outsource that because other people, that's what these other people can do. I need to focus on only what I could do. And that's like medicine and diagnosing and treating and helping women feel better. So it's, and this is my second year and well, I'm going on my third year. So a third year in private practice. And I still haven't met. I have a new mentor this year and, just to help continue to scale and grow me. And I think it's also important too, because these people have an outside look on my practice and because I'm in it.
Yes.
So I see it all the
Hmm.
time. So yeah, if anyone is struggling in entrepreneurship, like that's where you need to look and say like, well, who can help me? And then I always hear, well, I don't have enough. I can't invest in that, but you can. And
Yes.
you have to see the value in it to get you from here to here. And sometimes you have to take a little bit step back to do that, but it's worth it. And that's the best thing that I can say is just invest in yourself.
Yes. When I am also a massive advocate of that. I talk about
Hmm.
it all the time. We just had a podcast that came out today that's talking about investing in a business coach.
Yeah.
It's so
Oh yeah.
very important. It's like you can't when people say to me too, I have been an entrepreneur for about 13 years now. So, um I've got a little bit more experience than some that jump into this, but
Mhm.
I also need somebody to learn from. And when people are like, "Don't you already know how to do that?" I'm like, "Do you see like how like Michael Jordan and all these professional athletes still have coaches because it's
Yeah.
an accountability thing
Mhm.
too. You are the entrepreneur, you are the top of the thing. Who's holding you accountable for stuff?
Exactly.
Because we're not very great at holding ourselves accountable for things, but we're
No.
also those achievers that hate to tell people we haven't gotten something done yet. So I have a variety of coaches for
Oh,
different
yeah.
things. And some of them are just like literally to check in with me every week and be like, "Did you get your stuff done this
Yeah.
week?" Because you can get so in the middle of everything. And I love what you say about like hiring out your weaknesses, hire out what you don't want to do so that you can focus on the things. We hear
Mhm.
so much in the home service industry there, especially like I have a septic business, and a lot of the guys that we refer work out to, they'll be like, I'm sorry I've missed your phone call like 5 times because I'm out in the field and I'm doing this. Hire somebody, Jay, hire someone. And he's like, "I
Yeah.
can't afford to do that." I'm like, "You can't afford not to. Where are you
Mhm.
going to be next year?" Like that should be the scariest thing in the world, is that you are in the same spot that you are right now next year.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
somewhere you have to allow for that, just like rent of your building or utility bills. You
Mhm.
need that encouragement and that accountability to get you to keep moving, because sometimes we just get into a spot of complacency, and if you're not
Yep.
growing, you're dying in business, you
Oh,
know?
absolutely. But also too, if it allows me to set boundaries and then also take care of myself, because if I was doing all the things like I mean, I already feel a little slight sense of burnout, and that's just, because I'm busy. But if I didn't have these people to help me do some of these things, I couldn't imagine. I would be like so in the toilet as far as my health goes. And my health, after everything that I've been through in the last 12 years, like, is so important. And I will not jeopardize that. And being able to step away from the business, for at the end of the day, take a few days or a few hours off. Like last night, it was just wonderful. I just watched TV. I watched the Olympics and did nothing. I didn't have my laptop out, and just being able to step away. And I'm like, okay, like no one's going to die tonight. Like I can take some time off, just recoup and set those healthy boundaries so that you're not always in the business. It's really hard as women, especially, and in the, being entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or womenpreneurs or whatever you want to call us, to just work all the time. And it's not healthy. Like your health's going to take a toll at some point if it hasn't already. Your adrenals are going to be in the toilet. You're going to have, blood sugars, inflammation, stress, fat, your sleep's impacted. Like it's going to catch up with you at some point. So again, like that's where these
Yeah.
people can help you, so you can take breaks and you can step away from it knowing that everything's going to be okay if you step away for a few hours a day and take care of you.
Yeah. And just because you're not working or taking care of someone, a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are working mamas too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You get into that mentality of like, if I'm not working at work, I need to be at home working on something.
Right.
And you are just as important as that. It's this
Exactly.
mindset shift of like, if I don't take care of me, who's going to take care of all of this shit that I'm
Yep.
so worried about doing all of the time?
Oh yeah.
So it's really getting that frame of mind of like taking care of yourself is not being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you must do to get all of these other goals accomplished that you're working so hard for.
Yep. So true.
So, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I always ask everybody at conclusion of our awesome
Yeah.
conversation. Ladies Kickin' Ass is so much about building a community of women that can help other women. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that has always been very attractive to me about you, is that your foundation of your business and what you do is just solely based on education for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about this podcast too. This is an extension of my community to
Mm-hmm.
introduce the amazing women that are in it and how other women can help each other. A big goal for mine this year is really that power of proximity and being around people that can help you get to where you want to go, or be
Mm-hmm.
that mentor for you, or point you in a direction that will save you so much time. And that's the whole basis of this community. This is what we're trying to build here. So I always ask everybody at the end of the podcast, what does community mean to you?
Oh gosh, community is so important. And for me, it means having people around me that are really going to push me or take me to the next level. And also, like we just talked about, hold me accountable and really question me if I'm like, I don't want to do anything, or motivate me. Like that is community to me. And I have in my life, like a community of people that I don't even really personally know. We call them Team Ellis, and it's been with me since my cancer journey. My mom's been through cancer 3 times in her life. And so we call it Team Ellis, and our community is so strong. And it doesn't even have to be people I know. I just know that there's so many people out there rooting for me and my family. And that's what community means. And it's, again, it doesn't have to be someone you actually really know.
Absolutely. It can be one little thing that you read that day that you can include into your community that, it doesn't have to be the big things. It's all the little things. I love that so much.
So important.
Well, thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, I'm going to put all your links that you shared with me in the show notes too, and we'll promote all of that stuff for you.
Okay.
But if someone wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way if they want to come talk to you about what they have going on?
Yeah, the best way is on the website at hopenaturalhealth.com. All the booking is done online. I do 15-minute discovery calls too, so you can always book that. I'm licensed only in the state of Arizona for primary care. So if you're in Arizona, I'd love to help. Outside of that, my courses should be helpful, and there's going to be some more coming soon. So follow me on social media for all of the updates too. And I know you'll have those links in the show notes as well.
Yes, it's powerfully educational. And if that's what you're doing right now, and that's all you can allot for is to listen to Dr. Erin's information that she's putting out there, at least it will inspire you to make some lifestyle
small changes.
What am I looking for? Changes, cheats, whatever you need to do.
Little hacks.
Little hacks to be able to feel better about yourself, because I know if you're involved in business and all of these things, that stress gets to the best of you at some point. Take that as your moment of, make a bathtub and listen to some good health information.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And thank you for all that you've done for me and for this message for everyone today. And I'm sure we'll be chatting soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Ladies Kickin Ass podcast. I hope you loved it. Hey, if you got a lot out of today's show and you think a friend of yours may love it too, please do me a really quick favor. Screenshot the episode, post it, tag us at Ladies Kickin Ass, or share the link to the episode. I'm here to help and support as many ladies as I can, and your generosity in sharing the show means the world to me. Don't forget, hit subscribe to be notified of all newly released episodes, and leaving the show a 5-star review is the ultimate expression of love for our team. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, I would so love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or Facebook and we'll chat further. Thank you for being part of our tribe, and until next time, go kick some ass, lady.